Hey guys, this is Stephanie Heller and welcome to Sweet Success episode number 102. Today we're going to focus on who am I cooking for? This question is so important for all personal chefs to answer in the beginning of their business, in the middle of their business, and even when you have client after client. You have to know who you're cooking for. So before we get started, I just want to give you a little intro about myself and make sure you're in the right place. So like I said, I'm Stephanie Heller and welcome to Sweet Success. This is the Personal Chef Business Accelerator YouTube channel. This show is all about helping personal chefs get clients, get paid, and build a profitable business of their dreams. So you are in the right place if you are a culinary professional who is dedicated to helping people through your cooking. I'm sure you love to cook and create. You are obsessed with giving people a high quality service, and you have the best possible quality of life for yourself in creating this business. No burnout or craziness. So some of the most successful personal chefs have these things in common. And I want you to just think to yourself, do you have these things right now, or are they skills and experiences that you need to acquire? The first thing is they are super clear on the exact services they offer. Their pricing is easy to explain and they feel great about it. They have ultra delicious sample menus that people want to eat right now. They have consistent inquiries from prospects that want to hire them. Not one week they have 0 inquiries, the next week they have 10. It is consistent inquiries. And they have the confidence in selling their services. So out of those 5 things, maybe take out a piece of paper and write down which you have going on and which you need to work on, because that will help you know what you need to study up on and what you need to bring into your business. So my goal through this show is to talk about topics and things going on in your business that I've went through as a personal chef and that I coach my business clients on that are personal chefs, on how to move forward, how to correct this, and how to kind of cut through the waiting and the red tape and wondering if you're doing it right. You can follow a leader who's had that experience and who does it right. So let's get a tiny bit into who I actually am. I am the owner of Ripe Personal Chef Services, which is based in Scottsdale, Arizona. I have been doing this coming on 9 years full time. And as of now, we have 5 chefs that work for Ripe part-time, and then a full-time culinary manager who runs the day-to-day operations of the business. The yearly revenue of this business is just under $200,000, which is amazing because we only provide 2 core services. We provide weekly in-home cooking, and that can be a variation of if it is a couple times a week, like a fresh serve, or weekly, every other week, whatever the variation is. And then we do dinner parties. So that's really it. We sprinkle in a few other services like cooking classes and demos, but 99% of this business is, like I said, a variation of the 2 core services. We keep it simple, we keep it honest, and most importantly, we all love what we do. So now I spend most of my time teaching personal chefs just like you how to start and grow their business. There's a lot of different ways to learn with me. I do a ton of free content that is available on this YouTube channel and through my blog on the website. So make sure you sign up to receive my weekly emails and everything that we have going on in this community. I'm also a mom of 3, and I have infant twins and a 3-year-old girl. So I am very busy at home. I have help that lets me still work on this business and still cook and still be a part of other people's journeys, but I am a mom. It is my most important job. And my husband is an entrepreneur as well. He actually has owned and sold 3 businesses before we even met. And now he spends most of his time running his handyman service and flying airplanes for fun. So I truly believe that being a personal chef offers so many opportunities to contribute in the world. You get to use your talents, you get to use your creativity, and you get to really help people on such a basic level of providing food and comfort for them, and that is extremely powerful. So let's get into today's topic, which is who am I cooking for? Some questions I want to throw out there because a lot of people don't think about this until they are way down the road, or they have either quit or they can't make any money and they don't understand what's really going on in their business. So if you are in front of a desk and you have a pen and paper, take some good notes. You can always ask me a question in the comments here, or email a reply to any email that I sent you. I get to see them all, and you are not alone. Also, you can post any question you like in our private Facebook group. It is an amazing group full of close to 730 personal chefs who are just like you, who are making it big, who are taking big, bold moves. And you could get over there by searching in Facebook, Elite Personal Chefs, and just request to join, and I will pop you in there. And in there, we focus on business building techniques, providing community and support for each other, getting feedback on menus, pricing, where to find clients, all of the biggies. And it's a group of people going through exactly what you're going through. Everyone's at different levels, but it's a really good support network. So definitely pop in over there. Today's topic, who am I cooking for? Also ask yourself, who do I want to cook for? Ask yourself, who needs my service? And I'm going to explain why this is important. So here's what happens when you know who you're cooking for. You know where and how to market yourself. You know how to talk on the phone with prospects. You know the prospect's main problem and that you can solve it. If you cannot solve it, you will know that as well. You don't get into jobs that you are not good for. You don't have a huge mismatch with clients who are expecting something completely different than you can deliver. You also have a better time predicting your income. When you know who you're cooking for, there isn't always this guessing of when is the phone going to ring, who's going to book me, do they have enough money for the service? That guessing game kind of disappears the closer you are to knowing who you cook for. Your marketing efforts show way more return on your investment faster. They become a worthwhile endeavor instead of something you are just kind of stabbing in the dark for. I remember when I first started, and this is obviously a little bit ago, around 8 years ago, print advertising was still a thing. People read newspapers, they read magazines. The internet was obviously hot and everyone used it, but people were still in print a lot. And I just remember looking at all these publications and even focusing on my local area, certain zip codes in Scottsdale. I just never had any idea if the money I gave in was going to return anything. So I tried it with, some of the times I had no money coming in and I still paid for advertising in these publications. And then even when I had a few clients, I tried it again. But what happens is if you try it once or twice, you really have no idea who you're reaching, who's seeing the ad. When people do call me, I don't know where they're calling from. And it's very hard to judge if it's worthwhile because I didn't know who I was cooking for. I designed an ad myself, which didn't look that great. I used wording that really didn't speak to anybody directly. It was very vague, and it didn't shout out to somebody listening to it, hey, I'm the perfect personal chef for you, call me up. So not knowing where to spend your money on advertising goes away when you know who you're cooking for, because you know where your clients are online, in real life, and what they're doing and what they want, so you can speak to them directly. So let's start with some myth busters. A lot of people have really hardened preconceptions about what happens in this business and how certain people have money and certain people don't, and locations, and if something is in season or something is hard, whatever it is. I'm going to bust some myths with you right now. The first myth, and it all ties into who are you cooking for, is lots of personal chefs think I can cook anything for anyone. This is a huge, huge error, and I'll tell you why. When you come into this game, you think, anyone who calls me, I can cook for them, and I'm not going to say no to anybody because I want to make money and I want to build my business. But what happens is your net is so wide and so weak that you don't know who's coming in it, and your skills are being kind of diluted with stuff you may not be good at or stuff you don't know how to do, and it creates like a negative flow in your business. So the way that I want to bust this myth for you is, as soon as you can get out of your head that I can cook anything for anyone is just not true, you will be attracting different people to you, because you are unique and you have certain cooking skills and experiences and preferences. So if you grew up in Japan cooking and eating macrobiotic foods, and now you're living in the United States and you get a request for like a down-home Texas barbecue, this is probably a mismatch. And you might be laughing, but a lot of chefs will move forward on this inquiry where it has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with their scope of service, and it's totally out of the realm of stuff that they know how to cook. So you could try to book the job and you can do it just for money or just for experience, but is this the right client for you? And when you don't know who you're cooking for, you will not know that till after it's done, and the client may not be happy, or there might be an issue with payments where they don't want to pay the whole thing because they're not happy. But knowing ahead of time what is the right match for you is part of the recipe for success. So figuring out, are you the right chef and service provider for this client? And in the beginning of my business, probably in the first year, I would get inquiries all across the board. Tons of stuff I wasn't good at or didn't know how to do, but I wanted to book every lead that came in because I wanted money and I wanted to do this business full time. So I had an inquiry for a sushi party, and they called me, and she was very specific with what she wanted. She wanted, 8 to 10 women to learn how to roll sushi in the home. They wanted the raw fish, they wanted some vegetable, and they wanted to do a demo and do it with me. Like everyone would have their own station, like a real cooking class. And I knew in the back of my head that this was not for me, but I thought, I can watch a YouTube video. I am going to learn how to roll sushi. This is not a big deal. They were willing to pay. I mean, I don't remember. Maybe it was like $50 a person or $40. And I thought it would be good experience because one of those 8 people could hire me again. It's just getting in front of more people. So I kept pushing forward and moving toward the booking, and she kept changing the scope of the service and what she wanted. And then I started watching the videos. I bought equipment. It wasn't even booked yet. And I would buy equipment related to this. And I was starting to practice. And I realized that I just couldn't do the job that would let me walk out of there with a positive, amazing review. And it's one thing to learn on the job and to get comfortable with new skills, but you want to find the line between, is this a match for you or not? And ultimately, they didn't book. So I didn't even have to tell her because the client was just very wishy-washy and all over the place by the end. But if I would have said in the beginning, I'm sorry, this is not what I'm amazing at, here's what I can do for you, or offer her another recommendation of someone you know who does the job better than you, I would have saved myself weeks and weeks of stress and annoyance. I was probably $200 out of pocket before I figured out she wasn't even gonna book. And it was just kind of a waste of time. But I did learn this important lesson. So getting rid of the myth that I can cook anything for anyone is going to help you tremendously. The second myth is, if they pay for it, I will learn to cook it, which goes along with the story I just told you. And sometimes this can work, but what usually happens is your lack of confidence and self-esteem will get the best of you, and you will either tank the job, you will have a really poor outcome, or offering a refund, or just something bad happening. And what I mean by this is, again, taking in inquiries and moving forward, booking jobs. Just because they're going to pay for it, you're going to learn to cook it. I'm also, not amazing on the barbecue. And I can do jobs, but very high volume outside barbecue jobs, I don't like to do. And I had this inquiry for a party of 30, and it was, some summer event. And here in Arizona, it can be pretty dead in the summer. So I thought, if I could just book this barbecue job for 30 people, who cares? I'll be there 3 or 4 hours. I'll throw some steaks on. I'll throw, some stuff together. And I didn't want to hire help because I thought that is money out of my pocket and I can cook for 30 people myself. This was a huge learning lesson and wound up being a really big mistake because, first of all, not hiring the help that you need to help you just comes off really badly with the client. And even though I know how to grill and cook, anywhere from up to, 2 to 12 people on a grill, no problem, the timing and the execution of having meat all different done misses, like rare, medium, taking on the fly orders, people sending stuff back, messing up your whole grill rotation. This was not something I was good at. So I kept pushing forward. I booked the job. They paid, this was when I was doing a deposit, and then they paid the rest after. Now I don't do that, but they paid a good amount of money for 30 people. I think they paid maybe, $30 a person. And I went to do the job by myself, and I was just drowning. I was literally drowning, and everybody could tell. It was very hard to hold together. Everybody got their food, but I didn't have the right staff with me. I did not have the right skills for the job, and the client knew. And basically, they didn't want to pay when it was over. So this is a huge learning lesson for me, because not only was I out many days worth of back work on the day of the job, I was out the rest of my pay, and I couldn't even say to them, give me the money because I did the job, because I knew I didn't do it correctly. So money cannot be the only factor for booking a job. And when it is, you are kind of victim to who's ever going to pay you money, regardless of whether it's a good job for you. And you'll be doing anyone for anything, and you're not discriminating on what you're good at. And it's going to show. So think about what high-end, what I'm doing quotes now, rich clients want from their personal chef. This is a perspective I always take when I'm booking a job. What does my best high-end, richest client want from me as a personal chef? And here is what they want, because I've asked them, and I've had many, hundreds over the years. They want someone who discriminates, who is picky and choosy with the clients they want. They want someone who is special, who is unique, who is highly skilled. These clients don't just want somebody off a cooking line. They want somebody who has specific skills, who is mature, who is educated, who is smart, who is sharp, and who basically has an interest in being present and meeting the needs of that client. The list goes on, and we'll have a whole separate show about what do high-end clients really look for in a chef. But I mean, I could tell you tons of nightmare stories just taking jobs for money. And I'm sure you have those stories too. We can share those in the group together because they are ultimately a learning experience. It can vary all the way from you just had a bad time and you knew the client wasn't pleased, to you were incorrect on the actual service and the ingredients, to people didn't even get to eat, to the client doesn't want to pay you or didn't pay you, all the way up to somebody got sick. And that is, the ultimate thing that you are trying to avoid. And it does happen. So stay in your zone of genius and don't just take business because you want money. And I know that sounds counterproductive, but if you keep repeating the same mistakes, you really look desperate and you're not learning from what's being put in front of you. So the third myth buster, and these are honestly all related because I want to drill it home for you, is when somebody calls you and they're asking for a service or pitching something to you that they saw online or they heard from a friend, that you will do kind of any service or meal that they ask for, just if it's food related. And it's a very slippery slope. So here's an example. Usually our packages don't include breakfast. And we focus on the core service is the 4x4, which is 4 entrees with 4 portions each. Each portion has a protein, vegetable, and a starch, and it's usually good for lunches and dinners. But when people call and they say, I want to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner 5 days a week, delivered every single day, that's not even close to what we do. And what happens is when you're wanting business and you are letting your boundaries go for any inquiry that comes in, you wind up taking on things that you don't have the scope for and that you can't execute well. So the reason why we don't do breakfast is because it knocks out our time frame by 1 to 3 hours, meaning the pricing that we're getting on it is based on this lunch dinner model that they can eat throughout the week. If I do another drop off, that takes up more time. If I'm creating 5 different breakfast items, that takes more time at the store, at the menu, what they're getting. It's just not something that I've chosen to do. Now, obviously you want to be somewhat flexible on your services, and that's kind of the point of a personal chef. I mean, you tailor the food to what your client wants and you edit your service a little, but you don't want to go completely off the board and kind of just do whatever the person calling wants, because 98% of the time they don't even know what they want. The only way they're going to know what they want is if they've had a personal chef before and they're looking to match a specific service. That usually only happens with high-end clients or athletes who have had a personal chef at a different location. Maybe they moved, maybe they switched teams, and they're looking for a very specific thing. Normal people are usually never going to know what they want. They have no idea how the service works, the pricing, or anything, but they want 3 meals a day, 5 days a week, and then they're shocked when it's $600. So stick to your core services, know who you're cooking for, and you don't want to give over your control of your business to random people that are calling you. there's a difference between being flexible and then being stupid. So we want to always stay toward the flexible side. I know certain personal chefs that are not even flexible. They provide, one or two services. This is what they do, and they literally pass on everything else. And if it works for them, that's fine. What I try to stick with is having two core services that are slightly flexible, meaning the portions, the number of people, the types of cuisine all change, but the general guidelines really don't change, meaning usually the core service is you come once a week and you make food for the week. If somebody wants to split that into two services where the chef comes twice a week, we will do that, but there is another charge and you're creating a whole nother cook day. Because we've done it before, and what happens is the person usually doesn't continue because they don't realize the extra cost, and they don't even finish the food from one time to the next. So we try to stay away from that. So here's an example. Someone may call and ask for a weekly in-home meal service. Let's say your core service is a 4x4, and this would fit them the best, but based on what they're saying and your experience. But the prospect keeps telling you that they have frequent guests and their kids' friends come over and their parents are visiting, so they want a 5x8. This is not a service you do all the time, but it's a reasonable variation on what you provide. You're just increasing the quantity and the variety. You can easily charge more, and you should, because you are spending more time and energy preparing, cooking, food shopping, and everything. And after this first service, you can assess if it's too much food, if they like it, and there's no real, huge out-of-pocket commitment on either side. That's playing it smart and flexible. The other way you might get an inquiry is if a prospect asks you to do a drop-off meal delivery. We talked about this a little, 5 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they want you to come and drop the food off every single day. That's 5 drop-offs, and have 3 unique meals each day, meaning the breakfast that you have on Monday is not the same breakfast you have on Tuesday. Every single meal is unique. So 5 days a week, 3 meals a day, that's 15 unique meals. That is a tremendous amount of work. And they want to pay you the same as your weekly fee. Let's say your weekly fee is $300. So first of all, you don't do I'll give myself as an example. We don't do meal delivery. Second of all, the unique meals take way more time because you're not repeating ingredients and you're not using anything over again. The traveling and the food shopping all increase. Instead of doing one travel cook day where you're cooking there, you're going back and forth 5 times. I don't care if this person lives down the block from you or in your building. It is an increased amount of time. What happens is it turns into a mess real quick, and you wind up making no money because you are stretching yourself so much and you're giving more while getting the same. I'm giving triple the amount of time and making the same amount of money, and you will begin to resent it real quick. What also happens, and I've seen this a million times, and this is why we don't do meal delivery, is the client drops in 1 to 2 weeks because they're not committed or connected to the food, or more importantly, to you as the chef. When you are just dropping food off, they have no connection to anything. It's like food magically arrives at their house. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be whatever it is, but they have no connection to you. And we decided that we don't want to do that because it drew in the wrong type of clients. So I've seen many personal chefs, including myself, try to just throw a net over anything that comes in and just do it. And it's okay to try a job once or twice, but when you ultimately realize it's not for you, you need to move on, even if they're paying you. So when you deviate so far from your core services, it becomes a big mismatch, and it will ultimately make you broke and unhappy. So those are my 3 top myth busters. Let's get back to why it is so important to know who you're cooking for. These are the ways that it shows up in your business daily. The first one is you get really clear on this, and the language on your website starts to attract the right clients. You're speaking in their language. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that say, I felt like you were talking just to me. In the food service, I felt like you understand my family and what we do every day after school, and I know you can help me. That is the power of knowing who you're cooking for. You're going to spend little or no money marketing because you know where your clients are and how to help them. Ultimately, now we spend virtually $0 on outbound advertising, meaning I obviously pay to have my website up. I pay for, hosting and all the stuff like that, but we don't, as of right now, do any Google AdWords or Facebook ads for my personal chef business. I don't do any local print marketing. We don't do any online search marketing. And this is because over and over, when people come to click on the website, they know they're in the right place and they don't click off right away. So Google knows that this is a match for people typing in Scottsdale personal chef. So we consistently come up 1, 2, or 3 in the search. So we spend 0 money on marketing, and you can too. When you know who needs your service, it creates a whole new sense of confidence and kind of knowing that you are doing the right thing and you're helping the people that need it. So usually personal chefs fall into 2 categories. The ones who want the big fish, rich clients, which I call athletes, celebrities, high net worth individuals, could be business owners, actors and actresses, it runs the gamut, or they're chefs that want to save the world. It's 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. The ones who want to cook for senior citizens, single parents with 10 kids, sick people, disabled people, those are the ones who want to save the world. And even though this is admirable, you also need to be realistic about who really needs your service and who will pay for it. You need both. You can't just have people that need it, which is your sick people, your disabled people, your senior citizens. Obviously, they need it, but oftentimes they may not be able to afford it. The flip side is, in Scottsdale, there's literally hundreds of thousands of people, multimillionaires with 2nd and 3rd homes here, who don't need a personal chef, but they can afford it. They don't need it because maybe their wife cooks. Maybe they have a nanny or a housekeeper that cooks. Maybe they love to eat out. Maybe they just have no idea even what it is. I mean, I know basketball players who have their childhood best friend. They fly them out, they live with them, and they come and cook for them. They clearly can afford it, but they don't need it. So you have to have both to make the sale and a good match. And knowing who your service is for takes that part away. And there's a balance with it. If you only have high-end clients, you will ultimately probably feel a little unhappy and disconnected with what you're doing, because cooking for very rich and abundant people can also have a lot of waste in the job. You're throwing out food. People aren't eating it. There's that whole side of it. And if you're only cooking for people who are sick and desperate and old, they might need it very badly, but they will not be able to pay your fee. Even if they have money, it doesn't match up. So you need a little bit of both. So the opposite is, like I said, someone with cancer or somebody with diabetes or Crohn's disease, they need a dietary change, and it could possibly be for survival. They could have just had surgery. They could be on tons of medicine. And I've gotten tons of these calls over the years because we have two very famous hospitals here that people fly in to stay at. But the question is, can they afford it? Second question is, can they afford it long term? So when you need to change your lifestyle and you have diabetes, you can get a personal chef once or twice, but how is your life going to be after that? And is this a good business model for you? So someone could give them a gift once, maybe they got a gift card, but for weekly in-home service or multiple times a week, you want to focus on who can actually be a long-term client. And just from my experience, I know there's tons of other variations on this, but just in my experience and a lot of my coaching clients' experience, sick people are much, much harder to work with. And this makes sense, obviously, and I don't want to put a damper on this because we all know sick people and we all want to help them, but they tend to complain a lot. They are mad and angry with changes that need to be made in their life. They can be hard to communicate with, hard to receive payment from. The feedback from them might be very negative for no reason. Their tastes may be changing because of medicine or because of treatment they're in. It's just a whole nother host of issues that you might not be used to with clients. But most importantly, their main financial resources are usually focused on medical care, health insurance payments, medicine, stuff like that. So even though we know the value of food and it's important, and they may know it too, how viable is this long term? Sometimes you will get someone who knows the value of food as medicine. I've had a client who literally used the service off and on for 4 years. She would go into remission, she would stop the service, and then unfortunately it would come back and she would start again. It was a stretch for her, but she knew when she was sick that this is what she wanted to spend her money on. And I knew how important it was for her, and she always came back to us, which I was grateful for. So it got to be easier, but she was very critical of the food. She wanted things very specific way. I wouldn't call it like a pain in the ass client, but it definitely had different challenges. So you need to have your business model not just be focused on cooking for sick people or people who are in desperate need, or just cooking for rich people who want to throw away money. But in general, cooking for old and sick people, not the best strategy. So why is this all important? Why is it important to know who you want to cook for and then what services they want? With my coaching clients, and when people who enroll in private coaching with me or are in one of the group programs, we do extensive work on this. This is like laying the best foundation you possibly can to having consistent revenue in your business. The best part is you're going to have access to some of these exercises and principles in the freebie that is this week. And we'll talk more about that later. But knowing who you're cooking for is one of the backbones of business building, and it keeps changing, and that's okay. What you started out with a year or two ago might change as you get into different markets or different areas. I thought for years that my main target client was women, usually moms that were like 35 to 45 in Scottsdale, and a few more details I had uncovered. But it wasn't really until 2 years ago, actually 2 or 3 years ago, when I redesigned my website, that I really looked over all my data. I keep unbelievable records and keep every email, every inquiry. I went through inquiries, bookings, length of customers, total revenue from each customers. And what I realized, to my surprise, was that men that were fathers, usually in the 40 to 55 range, were the ones who booked the most long-term service with the highest frequency and paying the highest amount. When I realized this, I changed the wording on my website, the colors on my website. I updated our phone and email scripts. I mean, it was a huge aha because I thought for years I was talking to women who had disposable income, who had kids that they don't want to cook for. But the reality is the most highest paying jobs reoccurring, meaning month after month, year after year, were booked by fathers, men, who wanted to solve the problem for their wife and for their family. They took it upon themselves to reach out to me, to book the call, to do the consult, and to have the chef in their home. This was a huge game changer for me. So this is why it's important to know who you want to cook for, and a pattern will emerge over time, and you may change what you need to do, just like I said. So these little changes boosted our sales by 50%. That's a huge number. So there you have it. Today was a big lesson. I want you to listen to this again. You're going to get a lot more info. When you go through it with a fine-tooth comb, you're going to have questions. Please email me. Come in the Facebook group. Get your answers. Check out this week's freebie. It is always a good idea to solidify what you've learned by taking action. It's the only way that you know that you learned something. So try some of the techniques in the freebie, and the link for that will be in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sweet Success Personal Chef Show, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.